We come from the middle of the United States. So we're from an area that's known as Tornado Alley. You don't really have tornadoes here. If you do, not very often anyway. The force of a tornado is much, much greater and more intense than a cyclone, but it doesn't cover as big of an area. So it may be a mile wide and knock down everything in its path, like everything. There's nothing left standing of buildings. Yeah. So the devastation is huge. And, I'll have people all the time go, you lived in that part of America. How could you live there with all the danger? And it's like, I remember maybe 2 tornadoes in my life, and that's it, that were really close calls or anything that was close to where we were, because it's just a fairly small area. But when we were in school, we had tornado drills. You had tornado drills, Tim? You didn't have tornado drills when you were in school?
No, we had air raid drills.
This is just showing the age difference here, because yours were back in the whole
40.
During the Cold War.
Yes, it's just enough of an age difference. But we had tornado drills. Every school had them. So I remember being in primary school, and we would, they'd have a drill. The sirens would go off, and we had these huge tornado sirens that were spread throughout the community, very, very loud. So no matter where you were, you could hear it. You didn't have to depend upon a radio broadcast, or you didn't have to rely upon your phone app, because I've got an app here for bushfires and stuff. But we didn't have that, right? So we had these big speakers, and when they would come on, we had a plan of what we had to do, and every class knew what you were supposed to do in a tornado drill. So you were always told that you should go to an inside hallway. So you're supposed to go to a hallway or a place that's interior walls all around it, so that you're not where the outer walls are exposed, right? So it was the hallway usually at the school. So all of us as kids would go down, you'd face the wall, sit cross-legged, put your head down in your lap, because you were flexible enough to do that back then. So you'd put your legs in crisscross, and you'd put your head down your lap, and you'd put your hands over your head, and you'd stay that way until they told you it was all clear and you could get up. And you knew it was a drill, but it still had that sense of urgency. It still had that sense of, oh no, you think this is real? Oh, it's probably just a drill. And you'd talk as kids, oh, it's probably just a drill. It's just, practice, But you'd talk that way because you still had that sensation and that feeling. They had a certain amount of time. The teachers were supposed to be able to get 30 children out of their classroom into the hall, and all in their appropriate places, right? And they'd shut all the outer doors so that if the windows blew out on the building, glass wasn't going to cover you. And if things did fall, your hands were over your head trying to protect your head, right? So, but it had to feel real for it to matter. Yeah. If it was a game, then it didn't help. Same as if you'd have a fire drill or something. We had those once in a while, not as often as the tornado drills, but we'd have a fire drill. And we had a meeting place outside. So every teacher had to gather her students, make sure she had all of them. She'd have her roll call list. She'd have to take them out, roll call for the children. She'd have to present to like the principal of the school and say, yes, all my kids are accounted for. We're all here. And they all had a set place they had to go. But it had to feel real, or else it was just a game. Yes. It had to be drilled down. And the point was that you did it often enough that if you really had something like that happen, you were kind of prepared for it, because you could remember the last time it happened, and it was just kind of automatic. Oh yeah, this is what we do. We go out and we have a tornado drill, and we go in the hall. For a fire drill, we go out and we stand out on the outer edge of the playground or something. So it had to be realistic, and it had to be close enough to what was really going to happen, so they would stir something in you when the real thing came. Yeah. So everybody expects, with this being, the weekend leading up to Resurrection Sunday and everything, that we're going to talk about the resurrection. And Tim kind of led up to it last night. But I'm going to talk about a different resurrection. I'm going to talk about the resurrection of Lazarus today, because I kind of saw it as a drill for his disciples. a preparation for what was coming. So, that's how I'm looking at it. When I'm looking at it going, okay, resurrection wasn't a new idea when it came around to Jesus' resurrection. This wasn't something that hadn't happened before. This was something that they had seen with their own eyes. So this was something, a setup sort of for the people. So I'm just going to start reading. We'll talk a little bit, but I'm looking at John chapter 11, starting with verse 1. John 11:1. A man named Lazarus was sick. He lived in Bethany with his sisters Mary and Martha. This is the Mary who later poured the expensive perfume on the Lord's feet and wiped them with her hair. Her brother Lazarus was sick. So the two sisters sent a message to Jesus telling him, "Lord, your dear friend is sick." But when Jesus heard about it, he said, "Lazarus' sickness will not end in death. No, it happened for the glory of God, so that the Son of God will receive glory from this." So although Jesus loved Mary and Martha and Lazarus, he stayed where he was for the next 2 days. Finally, he said to his disciples, "Let's go back to Judea." Now, Jesus is making a prophetic word here. He's saying a prophetic thing. He's saying this isn't going to end in death. Now, I don't know how you would think about this, but I mean, our first response, a lot of people's first response is you call the doctor when you're sick, right? But Mary and Martha believed in Jesus. They believed he had power. They had seen the miracles he had done. So what'd they do? They didn't call a doctor. They didn't say, "Hey, let's get the doctor in and see what's going on." They called Jesus. Yeah. Because they believed that he had miraculous power. They believed that he could heal people. And so that's their immediate response is he's sick and he's really sick. This is not a cold, or they're not calling Jesus for this, okay? He's really sick and they're really worried. But they know where to turn, so they called Jesus. They did the right thing. They turned the way that anybody as a person of faith should turn. And Jesus is telling, he's telling his disciples who are sitting with him when he gets this message, Jesus doesn't panic. Did you know that? He doesn't panic. Hallelujah. He doesn't panic when he gets the news you get. He doesn't panic when he gets the news from the doctor that's negative. He doesn't panic. Right? He's sitting here and he's speaking prophetically and he says, don't worry, this isn't going to end in death. I don't know what you think. But if somebody told me this wasn't going to end in death, I'm thinking, okay, he's going to be all right. Yeah. Right? I'm not thinking he's going to die. I'm thinking, oh, good, he's not going to die. Yeah. Jesus said it doesn't end in death. Yeah. So my response would be, oh, well, he's not going to die. But that's not what he said. Jesus was pretty exact in what he said. He said, this isn't going to end in death. Right? Right? Yeah. He knows what's going on. Mm-hmm. He loves Mary. He loves Martha. He loves Lazarus. He loves them. He knows what they're going through. Yeah. He knows the worry and the turmoil inside when somebody's really, really sick and you feel helpless and you don't have anything to do. He knows. Mm. He knows what they're feeling. He understands that. He understood it when he saw that, when he heard that word coming to him. He's not surprised by the things that happen in your life, and he's not afraid. He's in control. He said 2 things about this. He said that it wasn't going to end in death, and he also said that there's a purpose to it. Some you don't see, some you don't understand, but God's going to get glory out of this. Yes. God's going to be glorified in a way you never imagined. He's going to be glorified. So Jesus is cool about it. He understands. He knows exactly what's going on. But then he didn't go running to help them. He had the power to help them, and he didn't run to help them out of the mess first thing. Now, I find that a little disturbing. You're worried that he's dying, right? And you call for Jesus because you're desperate. Yes. And he says, oh yeah, okay. Yeah, he's not going to die. I've checked with my father. He's not going to die. He's going to, it's not going to end in death. It's going to be okay. God's going to get glory out of this. So I'm going to stay around for 2 more days. I mean, seriously? I mean, if you didn't know Jesus, you would think he was hard-hearted.
Yeah.
You would think he didn't care. I mean, you would think this is the most selfish man on the face of the earth.
Yes.
I mean, as a parent, you look and you say, if my kid's sick, I'd do anything to help him. I'd do anything. And we had little Ellie in the hospital, you know? You know, and we didn't know for 12 weeks whether she was going to live. I mean, according to the doctors. You know, all that time. I would have done anything to take that from my kids if I could have. You know, for a young couple to go through that. You know, quite newly married when, you know, they had their first baby by about the first anniversary. I mean, you know, it's just, and now they got the second one really, really sick and premature. You know, I would have done anything. Does that mean Jesus is selfish? Because he didn't? That's what we feel sometimes, I think. I think you've been in that place, probably. I've been in that place. Saying, God, why aren't you doing something? I know you can. I believe in you. That's why I'm asking you. That's why I'm praying. That's why I'm coming to you saying, God, we need this. We need money or we're going to lose the house. God, we need money because we're just going to have to sell everything we have and we're at the end of it and we don't have dinner for next week. You know, I don't have any idea what I'm eating tomorrow. Or you're saying, God, somebody I know is really sick. They've got cancer. They don't have any hope according to the world. And you look and God doesn't seem to be moving and you're going, what on earth, God? Are you hearing me? I know you can do something, so why aren't you? Well, I think Mary and Martha were sitting on the other side probably wondering that. It wasn't very far. It didn't take him very long to get there. From where he was over to Bethany, didn't take very long. He could have been there really quick, same day. They would have expected him to show up right away, and he didn't. Why didn't you show up, Jesus? Why didn't you show up and help when I need you? Why didn't you show up? He looks really selfish. Or there's a second reason, second possibility. Maybe knowing that his own time was running out, knowing his daylight was running out, he didn't fear death. He'd already chosen it. He'd already accepted it for himself. He knew it was nothing to be afraid of. He knew his Father held death in his hands. He knew his Father had everything to bring life, to resurrect that which was dead. He didn't have any fears. He didn't have any worries. He was secure in his understanding of his Father. So he's waiting. He's waiting to react. He's waiting to respond. But it's not selfishness, it's selflessness. He's already gone to the end in his life, in his mind. He's already gone there. His disciples, though, are having a little problem when he's saying, we're going to go back. Now, mind you, they're sitting there knowing Lazarus is really sick and Mary and Martha have asked him to come. And Jesus says, okay, it's time to go. Let's go back. And they're like, they objected. They knew Lazarus. They were friends with him too. Every time that Jesus spent time with them, the disciples did too. They were a package deal, right? You know, our family, if you invited us to dinner, it was all 8 of us. Me, Tim, and 6 kids. Here we are. Oh, you thought just us. We're a package deal. We all come together.
That's right.
Right? So Jesus, he spent time there, so his disciples did too. They sat around, they ate meals with Lazarus. They had to be grieved. They had to be worried. But they had a bigger worry on their mind. Because they're saying, only a few days ago, the people in Judea were trying to kill you. Don't you remember that? Why on earth would you go back there? Right? Jesus isn't afraid, though. He's not afraid. He knows he's going to die. And he's okay with that. Because it's part of a bigger plan for the glory of God.
Yes.
Jesus' answer seems like it's out of nowhere, right? You know, there are 12 hours of daylight every day. What? What does that mean? 12 hours of daylight every day. During the day, people can walk safely. They can see because they have the light of this world.
Yes.
But at night, there's danger of stumbling because they have no light.
Mm.
He knows his day's almost over.
Yeah.
He said, night's coming pretty quick. I don't have time to sit around and wait. I don't have time to delay. I have to respond now. I'm getting the Aussie salute in here for our videos, so there we go. Our sprayer's working, and apparently the fly still likes me. But he knew his day was running out. He said, you can do anything during the day. You can go safely during the day. Night's coming. I can't worry about being safe anymore. I got to do what I got to do, and I'm going to go. But he says, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I'll go and wake him up. Well, the disciples said, Lord, if he's sleeping, he's going to get better.
Yeah.
They thought Jesus meant that Lazarus was simply sleeping, but Jesus meant that he had died. You know, Scripture a lot of times said, and Abraham slept with his fathers, right? David slept with his fathers. So that was what Jesus was meaning. But they just thought, oh, he's asleep. The fever's probably broken. He's sleeping and resting now, and he's fine. He's going to be all right. Why do we even need to go? They're still trying to keep Jesus from going. Do you see that? They're still trying to, it's all right. Well, he's going to be fine now. You know, he's sleeping. He's going to be okay. He said, no, he's dead. You know, he plainly told them, Lazarus is dead. For your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there. For now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. Seriously, do you realize, I mean, he's glad he died? That's really what he's saying. He's saying, I'm glad I wasn't there. I'm glad he died.
Yeah.
I mean, again, we go back to the selfish sounding thing when you don't understand the bigger picture.
Yes.
When you only see your little window of it, you don't understand. And he's sitting here and he's saying things that are just shocking. I'm glad he died. I mean, that's basically what. Seriously? I'm glad he died.
Oh, praise the Lord.
He said, because now you'll really believe. Okay, they've been following him for 3.5 years. What does really believe look like? They gave up their business, their fishing business, and left. Matthew gave up his tax collecting job, making the big bucks, skimming it off the top. So he knew. They knew. They saw so much. They saw so much. What do you mean now you'll really believe? They gave up everything so they could be with him and follow him, live an itinerant lifestyle, sleeping on the ground out under the stars with only their cloaks to wrap around them. They gave up a lot. They left their families. I mean, Peter was married. Because his mother-in-law gets sick at one point. So he's gone off and left a wife. I don't know if he's got kids. Okay, they've given up a lot. This is showing belief. How many of us are doing that? Right? How many of us are saying, yeah, we'll just give up everything and follow Jesus for 3.5 years and let everything else go and all of our financial stuff, it's just going to go out the window. What do you mean really believe? What do they need to really believe? Do they really need to believe that he's God? Do they really need to believe in his deity? Is that what they need to believe? Maybe they knew he was a great man, he was a great prophet. Maybe they were still just sitting on the edge of whether he's really God or not. I don't know. Maybe that's what he says they need to really believe. Maybe they really need to believe there's a resurrection. I think that's kind of where it's headed. They talk about a resurrection. They have some sort of belief in a resurrection. But Jesus knows there's something else coming. This is their drill, right?
Yes.
They're having their drill. They're going to get a chance to look death in the face before they have to look it in and lose the closest one to them. They're looking at it. And then you have Thomas. Always Thomas. Call him Doubting Thomas. I don't know. He's nicknamed the twin. He says to his fellow disciples, let's go too and die with Jesus. Okay, well, his heart's in the right place. Right? His heart's in the right place. He's like, Okay, we can protect ourselves. We can
Yeah.
protect our own lives,
Yeah.
but let's not. Let's just go with Jesus. He doesn't even think, maybe Jesus might actually live. You know, maybe he might rise from the dead, like he said he would.
Yeah.
He's told them this before. He's hinted at it all along the way. They should have caught on by now that this is what was going to happen. So he's like, well, let's just go with him. Let's just all die. I don't know. I figure Thomas is kind of like Eeyore. Oh, well. Let's just go along. We'll die with him. Right? So, I don't know. But he had enough faith to say, well, I love him enough. I'm not going to let him go alone.
Yes.
He thought he was going to die
Mm.
when he went with Jesus. But he was willing to do that. But these people still don't really believe.
Yeah.
Right? There's something that they still don't get yet. Jesus has got a drill in mind. He's got a lesson here that they need to learn. So, when Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. 4 days. 4 days. I can understand Mary and Martha's attitude here in a bit, because 4 days, he's already dead. He was still alive when they sent the message to Jesus. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem. Many of the people had come to console Mary and Martha in their loss. When Martha got word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died.
Yeah.
But even now, I know that God will give you whatever you ask. What is that? What is that? She's disappointed. Do you know that you will have disappointments in your walk with God?
Yeah.
You will have things that didn't turn out the way you thought they would.
Yeah.
This was not what they expected.
Yeah.
They'd seen Jesus do miracles. They expected he was coming back and doing one for them.
Yeah.
They expected he was going to show up. He'd speak a word to me. He'd say, Lazarus, get up. Be whole. And then he'd be all right.
Yeah.
That's what they expected. They were disappointed. A major disappointment. Thinking, God, you are a friend. Jesus, you are a friend.
Yeah.
You were supposed to love Lazarus like we did. We thought we were family. We thought you would take care of him. How'd you let this happen?
Yeah.
She's expressing faith in saying that if you would have come, we know you could have healed him. He would have been okay. He'd still be alive if you had come. So she's expressing her faith.
Yes.
She had faith that he was going to be okay if Jesus just showed up.
Yeah.
All Jesus had to do was show up, speak the word, and it was going to be okay. But she also is struggling with that disappointment.
Yes.
Struggling with that sense of loss and saying, Jesus, I don't understand. I don't understand. It could have been said with fingers pointed, if you would have come. But I don't think so. Because when you read the rest of what she's saying, she says, but even now, I know that God's going to give you whatever you ask of him.
Yeah.
That's the kind of relationship you have with your Father. You're so close to him. He loves you so much. You honor him so much. I know he's going to give you anything you ask. So whatever you ask him, I know he's going to do. Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. So you would think she'd go, yes, I knew it. I expressed it. My faith declared that. I declared that. I named it. I claimed it. I said it. I said, if you say something to the Father, it will happen. Right? She's a little slow. She says, yes, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Okay?
Yeah.
She can believe in a resurrection down the road,
Yes.
but not a resurrection now.
Yes.
That was her problem.
Mm.
I think that was probably the problem with the rest of the disciples as well.
Yeah.
They could believe a resurrection down there, but not when there really was something that was close, right here, right now, right in front of them.
Mm.
They couldn't accept that.
Yeah.
I think that was what they needed to believe.
Yes.
I think that was the one step further that they needed to go,
Yeah.
that they didn't have to really believe him.
Mm.
Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and
Yes.
life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this, Martha? She says, yes, Lord. I've always believed that you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Do you realize what's happening? The statements that are being made in this moment? The depth of what's happening here? Jesus is telling her, this is what I'm about. I'm about life. I'm about no matter what it looks like. Death isn't the end anyway. Even though you die, you're going to live. He says, do you believe it? Do you believe me? Do you believe that? Revolutionary thinking. Revolutionary talk. What sort of speakers were saying that then? I mean, none of the Pharisees were teaching that. None of them were talking about life and death. They were talking about rules and regulations and things you had to do. And he's saying, don't you understand? If you believe me, life is yours already. It's yours already. This isn't the end. Do you believe me? And she's like, yes, I believe. I've always believed. From when she first met him, she believed he was the Messiah, the Son of God. This is the same revelation that Peter had. Who do you say that I am, right? Everybody has to come to that place. Who do you say that I am? Peter's moment, he said, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God. Martha's already had her moment. Despite the fact that we want to make her seem less than Mary, because she bustled all around the kitchen and cleaned like I did today before everybody came. Did all the food prep, all of that. Busy. You know? Even though we want to say, oh, Martha, she just didn't know. She just didn't know to follow Jesus that much. She didn't value him. Yes, she did. She had this revelation of who he was. She had this revelation. He's the Messiah. She's using the words. She's had this thing opened to her by God. He is the Son of God. The one who has come into the world. She said it. She's got it right. She understands who he is. So then she went back to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and she said, come over here. So she said, the teacher's here. He wants to see you. So Mary immediately went to him. Did Jesus ask to see Mary? Not that we see. I don't know. I think she's going, you're in pretty good with him. You sat at his feet, you know, when I was busy moving in the kitchen. Maybe you can get him to do something, right? I don't know.
Praise the Lord Jesus.
So she goes, oh, certainly she'll have a different response, right? She's the one that chose to sit at his feet, chose the better part, right? Mary's chosen the better part. She's chosen to sit here at my feet and listen to what I have to say. So Jesus had stayed outside the village, the place where Martha met him. When the people who were in the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. So, I don't know, I find that pretty intrusive. People are going to follow you if they know you're going to the grave. I mean, in our culture, you would probably say, oh, well, she probably just wants some time alone, you know, let her sit at the headstone, let her, you know, let her talk to the person she's lost or that sort of thing, right? In Jewish culture, though, my understanding was mourning was a very outward show. It's that way in a lot of Asian cultures as well today even. I mean, I went to a funeral for an Asian person that I casually knew, but I went to the funeral and it was wailing and just sobs and on the verge of collapsing on the floor, and a big huge picture of the person up in the front, and it was just very different than what I would be expecting, because I was like, it's sad, but this big thing, but that showed how important that person was to you. Was the display you made, the display you showed, that you allowed, instead of having to keep it inside, keep a stiff upper lip, you know? Instead, they let it show. because this is showing how much they value that person, how important that person was to them. And so they're all with her, but so they go along with her. They're the ones consoling her, but they're the weeping and wailing as well. So I don't understand how consoling that would be to me if I'm needing somebody to say it's all right, it's okay, and be the rock and the calm. But anyway, they go along with her. And so they're privy to what happens next, because they followed her when she stops with Jesus. And she fell down at his feet. She said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother wouldn't have died.
Yes.
Same exact thing, Martha said.
Yes.
Both struggling with the same thing. Whether she was the busy one in the kitchen or the one that looked like the most devoted follower at his feet. They both were grappling with something they didn't understand. They didn't jive with their view of who Jesus was and what he was capable of doing and how much he loved people and how much he cared. And it just didn't mesh with what they believed. And she said the same thing. Same response. Same words. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you put him? He asked them. They told him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, see how much he loved him? But some said, this man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? Jesus was angry.
Yeah.
Kind of a disturbing thing.
Yeah.
What's Jesus angry about? I don't know. It's not real clear what he's angry about.
No.
Maybe it's that they didn't really understand him after all these years.
Yes.
You know, that the enemy still had blinded their eyes enough. That they were missing. They're missing what the point of the drill was here. They were missing things already.
Yeah.
Was he upset? More upset? When Mary came? Because she was the one that sat at his feet and even she didn't understand?
Yeah.
Was he mad because everybody was wailing and weeping when they're supposed to be consoling her? Instead of saying there's life. When Jesus gets here, he can raise him from the dead with the word. Maybe he was angry that they weren't saying that. Maybe he was angry that all these religious people around her had nothing to offer her. And couldn't offer any life when somebody was dying and when somebody died.
Yes.
I think he was angry at the whole thing. He's angry at death. He's angry at death that entered the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
How it's taking good people
Yeah.
and ruining lives and breaking hearts.
Yeah.
And everybody else is trying to figure out why he cried.
Yeah.
They don't seem too disturbed by being angry, which I think would bother me a bit. They're wondering why he cried.
Yeah.
And you got the people going, oh, look. It's all the mourners, right? Because the tears show how much you love somebody. So if Jesus cried, oh, he's obviously crying because, oh, he loved Lazarus so much. Look at this. Real tears from a man. He's showing his love for him. It's not just the women wailing and weeping. He really loved Lazarus. Then you have the people who are going to judge, the judgy people. You always have the judgy people, right? Like, well, look at him. Mr. Hotshot could heal a blind man. Couldn't come help his own friend. You know? I mean, Jesus crying in the middle of all of this. All of it makes him sad. The unbelief makes him sad. The loss makes him sad. Grief in our lives makes him sad. So, Jesus was still angry when he arrived at the tomb.
Yeah.
A cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. Roll the stone aside, he said. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested. Lord, he's been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible. She's like, don't do that. You do not want to take that off. Okay, she's the one who had said, anything you ask of God, I know he'll do for you. And then she's the one going, you don't want to do that. Do you think Jesus is stupid and doesn't realize this is what happens? Bodies decay after 4 days in the grave. I mean, he understands this. He knows this is not a pleasant thing. But sometimes you got to encounter unpleasant things to see the glory of God revealed. So he's not bothered by it at all. Martha was just going to let the current natural circumstances control things. That smell that was going to be coming from there count for more than a future miracle. How many times do we do that? How many times do we let our present circumstances count for more than a future miracle? We let what is keep us from what God's wanting to do because we're going to hang on to what is and refuse to see what's ahead. But anyway, some people believed enough. They responded a little bit differently. Jesus tells her, he said, didn't I tell you that you would see God's glory if you believe?
Yeah.
So they rolled the stone aside. Jesus looked up to heaven and he said, Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud so that these people standing here, they'll believe you sent me. Some people dared to look past the circumstances and dared to believe just enough to do something crazy.
Yeah.
He's asked them to do something crazy. I mean, seriously, if you have to look at this in, like, today, that'd be like you at somebody's funeral service saying, open up that casket. Come on, closed casket, I know that. It doesn't matter if they were killed in a car wreck, got burned badly, doesn't matter. Open it up. Would you be keen to do that? Because I'd be pretty hesitant.
Yes.
You're going, you sure, Jesus? This is not, Totally. It's understandable what they did.
Yes.
But there were some people who had enough belief, and it wasn't even Mary or Martha. We don't know who it was. But there were some people there that said, okay, I believe enough that he's speaking. We're going to do it because we've seen incredible things happen nobody would have ever believed.
Yes.
So I'm going to roll that stone out of the way, and I'm not going to let it stop us. I'm not going to let it stop him. Their obedience was what removed the barriers to Lazarus' resurrection. Their obedience. You think there are times that your obedience might be what removes the barrier to somebody else getting a miracle? To somebody else being resurrected from a life of destruction, a life of despair, a life of addiction, an illness that's terminal according to doctors? It might be your obedience when it goes totally against the natural side of things that might open the way and pave the way for the miraculous. Then Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out! And the dead man came out, his hands and his feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped up in a headcloth. Jesus told them, unwrap him and let him go. Unwrap him and let him go. Jesus spoke. Lazarus responded. You know why? Lazarus spent his whole life responding to Jesus' word. Everybody thinks they're going to be resurrected from the dead when Jesus comes. Yeah, it's second coming. I'm going to be lifted up with Jesus. You never listened to anything he said anyway, right? Lazarus spent his life listening to Jesus. Those 3 years he listened to Jesus. Jesus' word meant something. He knew his voice. He heard that voice and was just like, oh yeah, we're out of here. Right? He gets up. He comes stumbling out. He comes out though, and he's still all wrapped up. Couldn't Jesus have just magically thrown all the clothes off him, the grave clothes with them wrapped in? I don't know. It would have been much neater, not so messy. But I think he had something he wanted us to see. Because sometimes when people are resurrected from the dead, you know what? They still got stuff binding them. They're still wrapped up. They've still got things keeping them tied down, chained back, held back. So they may be breathing. Jesus breathed his life and he said, live, live. But they still got stuff. They have stuff holding their hands. So they can't do anything for God. They have their feet all bound up so they can't go anywhere for him. He's got his head all wrapped up. He can't see. He can't hear. What good are you going to be under that circumstances? You're breathing, but you're no good to anybody at that point. And then Jesus says a funny thing. He tells them, go ahead and unwrap him. He leaves it to them to do.
Yeah.
He didn't do it.
Yes.
God's chosen to collaborate with man. He's chosen to work with us. Crazy as it is, as often as we fail, as far short as we fall, he has chosen to use us.
Yes.
And Lazarus' freedom came with a word from Jesus, but then it came from people helping him along, setting him free, loosing him from things. That's what we're here as the body of Christ to do.
Yeah.
When people come in, if somebody prays a prayer and then the next thing you know, they're out doing something wrong again, you go, well, wasn't real. I can't believe them. Well, you sure should believe them. They're still all tied up, right? It's our job to be helping set them free. It's our job to be praying for them to get freedom. Saying, thank you, God, that he believed in you. Thank you that she said yes to you. Thank you that she's wanting to follow you. But God, I ask that you break these addictions off of her.
Yeah.
You break the addictions to drugs and alcohol. But how about the addictions to busyness? How about the addictions to approval of mankind? How about the addictions to needing some man to love her? So she goes from one man to another man to another. Hey, she'll try a woman in there too just to get her needs met. Seriously, are we going to judge that? Or are we going to work at fighting and breaking those things off so that they can be free? Because Jesus left that to them. He said, that's your job.
Yeah.
That's your business. So, there's some reactions that happen though. Everybody thinks you get a miracle and you're going to have people come to Jesus.
Yeah.
It's not always what happens. What miracles do is they put people in a place of conflict. They have now seen enough that they have to decide what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing that happened here. Everybody gets upset. I can't believe Jesus healed them, and then they didn't follow him. Well, 10 lepers got healed. Only one of them came back and said thank you.
Yeah.
Not a very promising percentage there, right?
That's right.
10%. Woo!
Yeah.
If you got that on a test, you would not be happy. So many of the people who were with Mary believed in Jesus when they saw this happen. They were ones whose hearts, we talk about the soils, right? That you see the different soils in people's hearts. There were people whose soil had already been dug up. It had already been prepared. There had already been work happening in their hearts, softening them towards God. And so they saw this. And they believed, and they said, Jesus, he's the Messiah. They believed like Martha did. They believed like Mary did. But some went to the Pharisees and told them what Jesus had done. What? What are you going to tattle that somebody raised somebody from the dead? Seriously? You should be celebrating it, but they're going to tell somebody hoping he gets in trouble. That's exactly what they did. They knew what they would do.
Yeah.
The leading priests and the Pharisees called the high council together and said, what are we going to do? They asked each other. This man certainly performs many miraculous signs. If we allow him to go on like this, soon everyone will believe in him. Then the Roman army will come and destroy our temple and our nation.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Our world as we know it is going to fall apart if people believe in him. So we don't want to believe in him. We like our world the way it is, thank you. We like our little system. We like being important. We like that these little people run to us and tell us and tattle on everybody else. We like this. We like it that it only is valid if it happens through us. We like this.
Yeah.
Their response was totally the opposite. Caiaphas, who was the high priest, stood up at the time, speaking prophetically as the high priest. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't realize that it's better for you that one man should die for the people than for the whole nation to be destroyed. He didn't say this on his own. As high priest at the time, he was led to prophesy that Jesus would die for the entire nation. And not only for that nation, but to bring together and unite all the children of God scattered around the world. So from that time on, the Jewish leaders began to plot Jesus' death. There you go.
Yeah.
You got the people who choose and the people who accept and say, what a miracle, what a miraculous thing. And you got the people who are going to turn.
Yeah.
and they're going to turn on him. They're going to turn on you, and they're going to seek to destroy.
Yeah.
Let's kill the problem. Kill anything that threatens the way I'm living.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like my sin. Don't want to quit.
Mm.
So let's just kill this. Let's just put down Jesus.
Yeah.
Let's just put him down. This will give you insight into people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you think about it. It'll give you insight into what's happening when you're talking to people.
Mm.
Gives you insight as you're trying to share with people about what's going on.
Mm.
So instead of accepting this and speaking in faith like the leaders should have, the religious leaders were supposedly looking for a Messiah.
Yeah.
So when he comes, why don't they accept him? It sparked a jealous self-preservation in them. I'm going to preserve myself and my way of life, whatever it takes. And the drill, this whole death of Lazarus, actually hastened the real thing, because it was the spark that really put it in their minds to say, okay, we're going to put him to death. But Jesus knew time was short.
Yeah.
So Jesus did this knowing it was going to spark his death.
Yes.
But Jesus did this because he knew his disciples, this healing, raising of Lazarus at this point, he knew what his disciples were going to face very, very shortly.
Yeah.
He knew what they were going to face.
Mm.
They were going to need a faith that was so much stronger than anything else they had. Because it was tragic to them that Lazarus died. I'm sure that they were grieved.
Yeah.
I'm sure they were heartbroken. I'm sure they asked the same questions Mary and Martha did. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Mm.
Right? But this was to teach. This was a drill. Jesus said, I'm glad he died for your sakes. Because then you'll really believe that there's a resurrection. Because he knew just coming up, he was going to be killed.
Mm.
Yes.
And they were going to go through the worst days of their lives. The absolute worst.
Mm.
Because this was losing the man that they were closest to.
Yeah.
The man that they had spent these 3.5 years with, that they had walked everywhere with, that they had heard, they'd hung on every word he had said. They just listened. They'd ask questions, and they'd discuss things with him, and they'd travel with him, and they'd watch him do miracles. They'd be part of the miracles that were happening.
Yeah.
But he was also their God.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't just their friend. He was the one they were counting on to save them.
Yes.
If he dies, what does that leave them with?
Mm.
What are they going to do? What's it leave them with? It leaves them with nothing.
Yeah.
So Jesus said, I'm glad that Lazarus died, because now they know.
Yeah.
Now they know. When they see it happen to me, now they know I can rise again.
Mm.
Yes.
Do you wonder why it was 4 days? Jesus needed them to be able to hold on, going, okay, 4 days later, and he still rose from the dead. So I can at least believe till 4 days later he can raise him from the dead.
Yeah.
Jesus was dead 3 days, right? On the third day. It was the third day, right? So they needed that extra day so that the whole time they could believe that they would have some hope to hold on to. Because if it got to day 4 and it didn't happen, what were they going to,
Yeah.
what if he'd been in the tomb 2 days?
Mm-hmm.
2 days pass and Jesus doesn't rise. They're going to be devastated. They're going to give up. But you need hope. You need a seed of hope
Yeah.
to have your faith stand strong.
Yeah.
And they had to have that hope. And that hope came from what they saw with Lazarus. And that prepared them for what was ahead.
Yeah.
And there are times in your life that you're going to be wondering, God, where are you?
Yes.
Like we said at the beginning, why aren't you doing anything? Why don't you solve this problem? Why don't you make my husband come back? Why don't you make my wife love me? Why don't you bring my kids back? Why don't you heal my son? Why don't you heal my sister? You're going to have those things.
Yeah. Mm.
And you're going to have this conflict of saying, Jesus, I know you can do anything. So why aren't you?
Yeah. Mm.
But if you have hope in a resurrection, you have a hope for what's ahead, because you have seen God do the same thing you're asking for in other people's lives. Almost everything you're asking him for, you have seen him do in somebody else's life. Because we've seen a lot. We've seen a lot in our church. We've seen a lot through the ministry. You know, we've seen people raised up. We've seen Cheryl raised up when it did not look like Cheryl was going to be raised up.
I did not.
It was not good. That gives us faith.
Yes.
So when you're fighting something in your body, say, gives me faith, because I saw that.
Yes.
When you have those times, the finances are desperate.
Yes.
You've had practice drills before. Oh, maybe they weren't so desperate. Maybe just had one day till payday, and oh, well, I can fast today if I have to, right? But you saw Jesus come through.
Yeah.
You've had a practice drill, so now you're ready for the real thing. Because everything that we've been through in the past is preparing us for something ahead.
Yes.
And that something ahead, you may think, oh, it's going to be the same thing but worse. But maybe it's just something you need bigger faith for.
Yeah.
Maybe it's big God things that God wants to do in the world. Maybe it's things that God wants to do in the earth as far as revival
Yes.
in Australia.
Yes.
You need those practice drills.
Yeah.
Those times that you thought, why am I going through this? Why do I have to live through this? Why do I have to endure this? Because there's big stuff ahead. There's a resurrection ahead. There's life ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And He's getting you ready. And you can totally fail it like some of these people do. Or you can come like Martha and be maybe halfway and say, I'm trying, Jesus. I'm really trying here. I know that you can do this. I know you can do this, Jesus. But
I gotta go get Travis.
I know that you could do this.
I gotta go get Travis.
But I don't understand why you haven't. But I still believe. You're still the Son of God. You're still the Messiah. You're still my Savior. You're still the one who's going to bring life out of death. You're still the one that can resurrect anything that looks hopeless beyond belief. So whether you're going through one of those moments now or not, I just want to encourage you. I want you to be encouraged. Those things shouldn't get you down. Those things are getting you ready. They're getting you ready for something good. But sometimes it doesn't look that way in the middle. It did not look good to Mary and Martha. They looked like everything was over. They'd lost their brother. When you have two women who are unmarried in the Jewish culture, and your brother is the one responsible for caring for you, what now? There aren't any children mentioned in this. Who's going to care for her? What happens to his holdings? What happens to his land, his house, his money? Who's going to care for them? Because they didn't trust women to be able to do things. They didn't think you could do that. They didn't look good. But in the end, their faith was built. Jesus said, I'm glad my disciples saw this. I'm glad He died. As awful as that sounded. Because I know you need this.
Yes.
I know you need to know that when you are going to be burned at the stake, or hung on a cross, or have your head cut off, or be stoned to death, that you need to know that there is a resurrection.
Hallelujah.
And you need to know that God can raise the dead.
Praise the Lord.
And so that's what I want. I just want you to have that faith. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be stirred. In the middle of your circumstances, I want you to be able to have a different attitude. I want you to be able to look at things differently and to respond to things differently, because you have an understanding of something bigger. You have an understanding that there is more that's ahead for you. And God's got this. No matter what it looks like, no matter what you think, no matter how it feels, He's got it. There's something bigger.
Yeah.
There's something ahead that He wants for you. So stand up. I just want to pray. I just want to pray for your faith. Father,
Thank you.
we believe, but we say help our unbelief, God.
Help us.
We know we're too much like Mary and Martha, God. We can kind of come in and say, we don't understand. We don't know why it's happening.
Yes.
But God, we stand right here and we declare and we say, you are the Messiah. Jesus, you are the living God. You are the resurrection and the life. You are the one that has the power to make everything right. You have the power of life and death in your hands. God, that you work to prepare us. That we look and we say, okay, God, if this is a test, if this is a drill, then help us pass it, God, because we want to be ready for what's ahead. We want to be ready for the things that you want to do in this nation. We want to be ready for the things you want to do in our families. We can't afford to have our faith wavering and saying, oh, someday. We need to stop putting off and putting resurrection into the future. We need to bring it into now. God, we choose that. We don't put resurrection in the distant future, somewhere too far away, but we accept it now. Resurrection life is for now. It is for these people in this room. It is for their families, God. It is for this nation, God. We declare it. We ask, God, that you would receive the glory. God, you would receive honor. You would receive worship. Eyes would be turned your way. Many people would believe, God, because we have seen your miraculous works, God. We have stood and we've made it through the drill and we've come on the other side. And our faith is stronger than ever, God. Our faith is stronger than ever. God, we ask that you receive glory. You receive glory, God. Many run into you. Many turn into you. Many hearts turning your way, God. Have your way, Jesus. Have your way.
Thank you, Lord. Yeah, how much you